Hey, I'm Booney Crawford of Fame Ministries and Media Productions, and today I have as my very special guest, Bobby Starnes. Bobby is a dear friend of mine. We've been friends for a long time, and we're going to be talking music and art and songwriting. And I hope you'll stay with us until the very end, where Bobby is going to perform a very special song for you. Today's video is being brought to you by the Crawford Property Group. We're selling homes from Dollywood to Hollywood, and whether you're listing or selling or investing, whatever it may be, the Crawford Property Group is your go-to for all things real estate. So without further ado, my friend, Bobby Starnes. Well, Bobby, thank you so much for welcoming us into your beautiful home, and it's just a joy to be able to be here with you. And thank you for taking time to do this interview with me.
I love having you, brother.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, man.
Well, man, we've been friends a long time. You know, I was sitting back there thinking a while ago, it's 40 plus years.
Whew.
It's been a while.
Don't remind me.
But, you know, I got to thinking, you know, there was a lot of like negativity that was talked about combining Linview and Kettering and going into North. But had it not been for that,
We wouldn't be here right now.
that's right. I don't know that our paths would have ever crossed, but I'm so thankful.
I'd have hated you for the rest of my life.
No, why would you hate me? But I guess if there was a silver lining to that, it was being able to make friends with people like you. And I'm so thankful that, you know, our friendship has endured all these years. So,
Oh, yeah.
What was your thoughts when we first started going into Sullivan North?
Well, I knew that I was going to fight David Allen before the year was over with. I'd seen him play baseball the year before, and he was so cocky. I'm like, me and that boy's going to fight next year. And we ended up being best friends.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, you know, there was good and bad about it. You know, there's a lot of good things, a lot of good friends made from it, but, you know, we didn't get to know half the people we went to school with. You know, they were our own class. I mean, we were limited to 1 year to get to know everybody we could get to know. And you know, the bad thing about it is you know, you go 3 years to one school, you want to graduate from that school. You know, you know all the people you've gone to school with, and being pushed together with another school. There's twice as many people, and you don't know half of them. Mm-hmm. And but you know, I made some new friends out of it, and I'm glad it happened because of that. I mean,
yeah. What were some of your interests? I know you're an artist, but you're also a musician. Mm-hmm. So was that always something that motivated you in school? I mean, is that the interest that you took in school?
Oh yeah, I aced my art classes and my music classes, and I barely got by on the other one because I knew what I wanted to be when I got out of school. I knew I was going to be a graphic artist or an artist and a musician. And so I really worked hard though at being a musician after school. You know, there was a period I would make myself practice the guitar 8 hours a day, every day, 7 days a week. I'd make myself play the guitar, you know, and learn as much as I could. So I knew early on what I wanted to do. I've just been so blessed to be able to do it all my life and make a decent living at it, you know.
Well, we'll talk a little bit more about your music career here in just in a moment. But there was something about you guys from Bloomingdale. You know, being from Lynn Garden, you know, I was kind of freaked out by Bloomingdale people. Mm-hmm. But anyway, I mean, you guys, there was something about music and you Bloomingdale boys.
Yeah.
I mean, people like you, and I know you've written a lot with Tim Stafford, and
right.
You know, you got Kevin and Preston Salyers.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Terry McCoy's another great one.
Terry, yeah.
But he's from Moorbank. He don't count as but same high school. So yeah, we had a lot of great. Adam Staffy, of course, but he was from Linview, wasn't he? He
Right,
would have been from Lynn Garden.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there you go. You have one on your side.
Well, you had, people like Brady Barnett.
Oh yeah.
Barry Bales. Wasn't
Yeah.
Barry from Bloomingdale?
He went to South.
Oh, did he?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
But this whole area is flooded with great musicians, I think. But
so tell me about your art. You have your music, which is an art in itself, but you're also a graphic designer. Tell me a little bit about how you got into that.
well, I got started. My first job as a graphic artist was at a place called Magic Prints. It's a screen printing shop, and we got a new Mac in with Freehand was the software we were using back in those days. And it's like anything, if you're interested in it, you're going to learn it. And I really took to it really quick. And so like one of the very first things I ever did on the computer was a Fun Fest design for a Fun Fest at Kingsport in 1990. And the folks down at the Arcade Graphics at the time took a liking to it and offered me a job, offered me to come to work down there. So, because they were just getting into computers and graphics, electronic art. And so I took a job starting out there. And then from there, I was introduced to these huge companies like McGraw-Hill, Prentice Hall, Pearson Education, Simon Schuster, Liam Febiger, just all the major, because they was printing for all these people. And we had a pre-press company of about 70 people at the press. We call it the press because that's what it's always been called if you grew up here. But so I was on the ground floor of getting the computer art, electronic art started. And I was the very first one to ever do any electronic art for McGraw-Hill and Prentice Hall and Simon Schuster and several others, Oxford University Press. I remember several. I was the very first one that ever did any electronic art for them. And I was just kind of in the right place at the right time, I think. But then as things got going, they started to phase out the pre-press company at Arcade Graphics. And I had a very good friend that I'd made at McGraw-Hill, the art director there. She told me, she said, we're not sending this artwork to Arcada, we're sending it to you. And I said, so what do you say? And she said, I don't know why you don't go out on your own and do this. And so introduced Johnny Burton. I could do the work, but I didn't know the business side of it. So I had to have a business partner that could handle the business side. And a friend of mine that I'd met there at the press worked in customer service at the time, Johnny Burton. I asked him, I said, would you be interested in doing this? And he agreed and thought it was a good idea. I mean, it was kind of a no-brainer after I explained the whole situation to him. And we've been together for 32 years now, doing graphic arts and we expanded on, we was an art house for the first 3 or 4 years, but we expanded onto a full pre-press company before it was, before it was all said and done. We were doing everything.
So you've got this gift of creativity that you can see things and then adapt it to your own thoughts. And so that kind of leads into like your songwriting. Mm-hmm. You've always had this knack for taking somebody's statement or something like that and say, hey, there's a song in that, and you'll write that.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about your songwriting.
Well, I started writing when I was 14. I wrote my first song, and I still remember it because it was 1976. I'm telling how old I am now. But Jimmy Carter was just elected president, and I wrote a song called It's Peanut Picking Time in Georgia. Most people says, "What does that mean?" Well, he was a peanut farmer, and I wrote this song about him, but I remember that being my first song I ever wrote. But I was hooked on songwriters too. I was fascinated with songwriters. I was fascinated with people like Willie Nelson, who was known back then more for a songwriter than he was an artist, of course, and Chris Christopherson and people like that. I was fascinated that they were the ones that were creating this music that we were listening to, and I'm like, it just fascinated me. So I've written ever since then, but the whole process of songwriting is something that I dearly love to do. I mean, it's my passion more than anything is songwriting. I love to start out with a hook or an idea or a melody. Sometimes there's no formula to writing songs. People say, what do you start with, the melody or the lyric? And there's no formula. If there was a formula, everybody could do it, and
I can't do it.
And it would be, you just fill out this formula and you'd have a song. But now AI's got me worried, but that's another subject. But I love the whole process of writing, and to me it's like a puzzle. You get a good first verse and you go, okay, where do we go from here? And then you get a good chorus or something, and you say, okay, where do we go from here? Second verses are always the hardest. Every songwriter will tell you. Kim Williams used to say that he'd introduce a songwriter and he would say, this guy's so good he can write a second verse. Because usually a second verse is weaker than the first verse. 9 times out of 10, it always is. It's not as strong as the first verse anyway. But to me, it's putting that puzzle together, figuring it out, and coming and ending up with something that's there now that wasn't there before.
Well, you've had a lot of #1 songs on IBMA charts.
Mm-hmm.
So it's got to make you proud to know that, people are recognizing your talent as a songwriter.
Yeah, I've been really blessed to have. I've had 117 cuts is my latest figure that I keep a database. My wife said if I was to die, she said, I don't know who else cuts your songs and which ones or nothing. And she said, I want you to create a database and keep a log. So every time someone cuts a song now, I add it to my database. But yeah, I've had 117 cuts, which I'm really proud of, and 5 #1s. Yeah, which is, it's hard to do. It's hard to get a cut. And if you do get a song cut, it's hard to get it released. And then if you do release it, you don't know how high it's going to climb. But for all that to happen 5 different times to #1, it's pretty cool.
Yeah. Well, I know that, I think I've heard you say that you spent the majority of your life more in as far as music goes, more of in a support role.
Yeah.
And you've always been a musician, and you've backed other singers and things like that. But then you cut your own album.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about your.
Well, that's just something I did for myself. It's I have all these songs, and I'm not the best singer in the world. I'll go on record saying I'm not the greatest singer. So I'm just limited in my vocal range. Is very limited. I have a baritone voice and can't sing very high at all. But I just picked out 12 songs, I think it was, that I could sing good enough to put down on the album and recorded the album. It was a fun project. I had a lot of great people playing. A lot of good friends came in and played on it, and helped me out with it.
Well, tell me about the song you wrote about your mom.
That's probably my favorite all-time song. I know I've written over 1,500 songs, and that's probably my favorite. It's called Tips of Minimum Wage. And I actually wrote that song. It is about my mom and about her being a waitress, and a single mom and raising 3 kids on tips and minimum wage. And but I can remember when I wrote it, I was driving to Boone. We used to play at Shadrack's. You played Shadrack's over there at Boone. And we were playing Shadrack's one night. And it's about an hour drive over there, so hour and 15 minutes something. And I was driving by myself, and the song Independence Day by Martina McBride came on. I was listening to it, and it just reminded me of my mom for some reason. My mom didn't burn a house down or nothing. But it just reminded me of my mom, and I just turned the radio off, and I wrote the first 2 verses on the way over there. And we played the gig. Then on the way back that night after the gig, I wrote the rest of the song. Yeah, while I was in the truck going back and forth to Shadrack's. And but it's my most personal song I've ever wrote in my life. You know, I've got one song I wrote about me, which is kind of weird. I've never written a song about myself, but I did write one about myself. But this one is really I dug pretty deep, you know, and I had to bear a lot, had to tell a lot I didn't want to really tell. You know, but the thing about it is I'm so proud of my mom in a way. She raised us, you know, and she was a single mom and raised 3 kids and really worked hard. I remember her working double shifts, you know, and just me and my sister at home. And of course my sister was 5 years older than I was and was my babysitter, I guess. But you know, just my mom is my hero, my biggest hero.
I'm sure we probably drove her crazy coming over late at night and knocking on the door.
Yeah.
Well,
she was used to it.
Yeah. Well, you've taken music personally and where you've played, you've gone out, done live shows and things like that, and then you started your own recording company. Tell me a little bit about Hat Creek Recording Company.
Well, that all started when I started getting real serious about songwriting and wanting to demo my songs. You know, I used to go to Nashville and have them demoed down there, and it was expensive. And I think I had one of the first home studios. Now everybody's got a home studio. Everybody and their brother has recording equipment, it seems like. But I just was at the other house, and I took half my basement, which was empty, and started studding up walls. And me and my brother and my brother-in-law, we built the first studio that I ever had. And pretty soon all my friends wanted to start recording there. So I started recording more people than I was recording myself. You know, I built it for me to demo my songs, and I stayed booked. At that time I was staying booked 5 nights a week or 5 days a week, and still working full time and farming full time and doing it all. And I got overloaded and had to make a move from that. But when we built this new house, I just went ahead and put it into plans that I was going to have a studio in the basement, and it's nice. It's a full-blown recording studio. I mean, it's totally high-end, everything. You know, the microphones we got, you know, all the best microphones, all the best preamps, you know, the best software, the best. And the rooms I have 4 rooms, 4 isolation booths. And I had my builders build it as they was building the house, and it's done right.
So you have this studio, and you intended for it to be for your own personal use, but you've had some pretty big artists in here.
Yeah.
How did people find out about it?
Well, people
Just word of mouth?
Word of mouth, and of course Blue Highway, they've cut their last 4 records here, I think. And that's one thing we're good at is acoustic music. We're really good. Of course, microphones and preamps are the secret to that, you know. You can't just stick a 57 on a 1934 Martin D18 and expect it to sound good. You gotta have the same quality mic as you do the guitar. But
in the midst of having a recording studio, I mean, you've got Jim Price, who engineers for you.
and he's the best.
Yeah. Well,
I'll put him up against anybody in Nashville.
So he pretty much runs everything down there and records it and captures it, all that kind of stuff. And in the midst of all that, you're trying to work, you're trying to prepare yourself for your other musical endeavors. And you know, there's a verse that always comes to my mind that always says that, you know, a man plans his way, but it's the Lord who directs his steps. So when you're contemplating all these things, and I know there's probably frustrations that go along with, you know, why is this not happening? Why is that happening? And, you know, and then you got to step back and think, you know, I'm just going to have faith that the Lord knows where He's taking me in this journey. So when you have all this stuff going on around you, how do you feel? And like, what do you think that your next steps are, as far as whether it's music or whether it's your graphics arts or whatever it might be? What do you think your next steps are?
I don't know, to be honest with you. I mean, I just keep trotting along, you know, hoping that I'm making the right decisions. And of course, I do believe that it's all God that's got me this far in my journey that it's opened the doors. I can go back to certain days in my life when I know that was God, you know. It was just, there's not a doubt in my mind whatsoever. And I know that He's got a plan for the rest of my life, and I don't know what it's going to be. I mean, I hope to write and get bigger cuts, you know, of course. And I mean, my real passion is songwriting, and that's something I'll do till the day I die. You don't just retire from that, you know.
And it's something you can always do.
Yeah, you can do it. You know, I've written songs in the shower before. You know, you can do it anywhere, anytime. And, but you know, I'm always after that next cut, always pitching and always plugging, and I hope to get, you know, I've been writing a lot of country songs lately. I spent a lot of time in Nashville last year writing on the countryside, and I just recently got a song in a movie, by the way, and that was a nice little lick. And but you know, I'm just always trying to reach higher and go higher, but you know.
Well, I know you a lot of times you'll put a song out on Facebook that you've written or you sing. And you got one in the pocket that you can do?
No, but I will.
All right.
I don't know what to do, but they just happen to be a guitar sitting there.
It just happens to be.
How about that for convenience? I used to have a place in Hilton Head, and I started this song in Hilton Head, and I finished it in Kingsport. So it's called Here in My Hometown. It's got a little bit of Hilton Head in it, it's got a little bit of Kingsport in it. Some Kingsport folks will recognize some of it as I get through it. It's called Here in My Hometown. Well, the live oak trees shall line the oyster shell roads that leads back to my stomping grounds. And a warm Gulf breeze stops by to say hello, to let me know no one's around. Here in my hometown. Well, some kids are hanging out with their bikes and their boards in front of what used to be Sears. And that big town clock says it's 4:30, just like it has for 30-odd years. And there's Mrs. Johnson, Becky Lynn's mom. She doesn't recognize me now. And that old Holiday Inn was the scene of our prom, and some things I can't talk about here in my hometown. Here in my hometown. Yeah, the Desi Cup's gone and the skating rink's a church and the drive-in's a big pasture field. Since that cotton mill closed, no one can find work and they probably never will. But Deacon Jones is hanging on to his hardware store, still selling nails by the pound. He says nobody much comes around anymore, but he'll die the day that he shuts down. Here in my hometown. Here in my hometown. Well, now Dave's in Atlanta and Michael's in LA and Melinda married a millionaire. And Jerry's in the slammer and Gary's in the grave and the rest are gone to God knows where. As for me, I'm in Nashville reaching for the stars, trying to keep my feet on the ground. But no matter where I roam with this old guitar, I always had to come back down here to my hometown. Here to my hometown.
Beautiful, man. Well, we always like to take an opportunity when we're about to finish up to take the person that's the subject of the interview, and you've got music, you've got art, you've got songwriting, you've got studios. What advice would you give someone that's coming up right now? What advice would you give them, or an encouragement, so to speak, to do what they're doing?
Well, first of all, find a good woman. Because I have an amazing wife that has supported me all these years.
Yeah, Connie's a great one.
And she's never said no to any of my crazy ideas that I've had. And she's always been right behind me. So, I mean, that's very important in my life anyway. I mean, I wouldn't be here without her, that's for sure. She's pushed me, and she's always, we pray together about things, and then we just tackle them, and go at it full steam. But my advice to young people is keep doing it, I mean, when I was young, I was thinking, how did they get all these songs cut? Well, they kept doing it, I'm 61 now, and I wish I got cuts back when I was 17, 18, 19 and couldn't do it, It's taken me a long time to accomplish everything I've accomplished. It's taken a long time. But just keep doing it. Practice, 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 and keep writing. If you're an artist, keep at it. Always getting better, always studying, always trying to, finding a way to get it done.
Yeah. Well, Bobby, I'm so appreciative of you allowing us to come into your home and just to share your story and your life.
This is my honor, man. I'm glad to have you.
I'll
do anything for you.
You're a special, special friend to me, and I'm so grateful for the years that we've had together. And,
yeah, me too.
And even going out and smacking the golf ball around the golf course. Well, man, thanks so much.
Yeah, buddy, I love you.
I love you too, buddy. Appreciate you.
Yeah, man.